Hi, I'm Lori. Laying next to me here is Indica, my little sidekick. And welcome to the Art of Healing. If you have stumbled across my page, it's probably for one of three reasons. You either were looking up information on HNPP, which I will explain in a minute, or primary hyperparathyroidism, or healing with art. So the reason I'm starting this video blog is because the last couple of years have been pretty rough physically for me. Several years ago, well, about 8-9 years ago, I was diagnosed with HNPP, which is hereditary neuropathy with a liability to pressure palsies, and it's a form of CMT, which is, they're both genetic disorders, hereditary genetic disorders. With CMT, there's several different forms of it, and all of those are a duplication of a gene that creates the protein that is involved in creating the myelin sheath for your nerves. With the HNPP, which I have, it is a deletion of a gene which plays into the creation of the protein that helps build the myelin. So I can have I can get drop foot. I broke my foot a couple months ago because I had drop foot from sitting too long in a hard chair and having my nerves pressed on in my legs. So then it caused drop foot, and rolled my foot too many times and broke my foot. And part of that plays into the next one that we're going to discuss. So HNPP, I will discuss later. It can cause very mild symptoms. Some people never really realize they have it, or it can get severe where you're kind of crippled. It's similar to MS. I've known people that say that they just tell people they have multiple sclerosis, they have MS, because people understand that when they don't understand HNPP. So the next condition is also considered rare. And people always confuse this with the thyroid. It isn't the thyroid, it's the parathyroids. The parathyroids are 4 little glands that sit like behind the thyroid, and they're normally each the size of a piece of rice, and you can get growths on them like tumors called adenomas, or you can get hyperplasia of them where they are enlarged. Well, then they start messing with your calcium levels in your body and the absorption and the uptake of that. So some of the major symptoms have to do with calcium uptake. One of my boss's moms recently had surgery to have her some of her parathyroids removed, and she didn't have any symptoms other than having osteoporosis and having high calcium, and parathyroid hormone PTH levels were high, and that's what told them that she had it. For some people like me, we get symptoms that we basically take on enough symptoms for everybody else. So I've said that I think I have enough symptoms for her and myself, and my body has decided to just make stuff up for shits and grins. So some of the major, I guess I should start back about a year and a half ago. About a year and a half ago, I started having issues because I also have degenerative disc disease in my neck. And so the vertebrae are, the discs are pretty much nothing. Everything's degenerating. But then I also started getting growth on the sides of them on some of the vertebrae in my neck that impinges the foraminal opening, which is where your nerves come out and go out to your extremities. And so those are getting pinched. So I've been having a lot of pain, nerve pain, electric shocks to my hand, numbness, weakness, shoulder pain, all of that. So for a long time, I was seeing doctors trying to figure out how we could deal with that. Well, in the meantime, this last March, I started having horrible, like, muscle spasms in my neck up into my face, and I will show videos of those in a while. That's what started having me go to the doctor, and that's when they discovered that I had the high PTH levels, but the calcium, they said, was fine. Then they tested my vitamin D and said, well, your vitamin D is low, so that's what the cause is. You don't have hyperparathyroidism. So they tested it again a couple times. Well, parathyroid levels went up. Calcium stayed within the high normal range. Vitamin D was fine after a while. But I was still having the muscle spasms, and nobody locally could figure it out. So I self-referred myself to Mayo Clinic. I live in central Iowa, and Mayo is in Rochester, Minnesota. It's about 2.5 hours north of me. So I self-referred myself there, and it was easy to get in because of my rare genetic nerve disorder, the HNPP. So I got in. I've seen several specialists. Nobody can figure this out. While doing more research and joining some support groups and information groups online, I've discovered that the hyperparathyroidism causes all this stuff that I've been dealing with. So in March, when I started having those muscle spasms, I guess that's associated with it. Some of the pain that I'm having and stuff in my hands, the nerve pain, the bone pain, which is horrible at times, that can all be attributed to the hyperparathyroidism. So it makes me wonder, how much is the genetic nerve disorder, how much is the hyperparathyroidism, and how much is the degenerative disc disease, and are they just kind of all combating against each other? Well, I've got a list of symptoms if you're curious, because you've had issues or told that your PTH levels, your calcium are high. These are a bunch of the symptoms. And when I went down the list, when I first found some of the lists and then started finding more that people add on to, it's like, oh my God, I can check every single one. And yet doctors were saying, oh no, you don't have that. You're fine. Well, I'm not fine. And I need to get the surgery to have the parathyroid glands, have them checked out, see if it's hyperplasia, see if I have adenomas. The chance of the tumors being malignant are extremely rare, so I'm not concerned about that, but it does mess with your body so bad and your system so bad that you don't sleep, you're nauseous, anyway, let me go down the list and I'll cover it all then. So the first one, and hopefully I don't make you sick moving this around. So you tire easily, you have decreased energy, lack of motivation, weakness. Yeah, that's me right down the line. I have such a hard time getting anything accomplished. I'm tired all the time. And part of that, and also fatigue and exhaustion, and then trouble sleeping. So for the last at least 13 months, I don't have any trouble falling asleep at night. I fall asleep just fine. Then I sleep for like an hour and a half, and then I'm awake. And then I am just up for hours. And I may fall asleep if I'm lucky. I may fall back to sleep about an hour and a half before my alarm goes off. But a lot of nights, I don't fall back to sleep at all. So I feel like a walking zombie all the time. And then that also can exacerbate the muscle spasms and everything. So that's a major issue. Depression, I've suffered with depression all my life. And so I guess I don't know how much that's been affected. Memory issues and forgetfulness, with brain fog and concentration issues, difficult to accomplish tasks, stay focused, all that has been a I have always had an amazing memory. I I would remember everything. I was kind of like the historian for my family. Well, now I don't remember what happened last week or a couple days ago, and my kids are always giving me a hard time. Mom, how can you not remember that? And I can't. It's actually rather scary to think that you're going senile um, so young. Well, it could be this instead, which would be nice if this gets rectified with a surgery. Then more, you just don't feel 100%. You don't feel normal. You don't feel like yourself anymore. And it's really hard to explain. It's one of those, just like with my HNPP, they're invisible illnesses. People don't see them. If they, if you have a limp or a broken foot or all kinds of issues that people can see, that disability or that illness, they understand. Or like if you've had treatments for cancer and you've lost your hair, they see that, they understand, they're compassionate. Well, with stuff like this, they can't see it. They can't see the pain. They can't see the numbness or the weakness, or they can see when I have foot drop and I'm like walking weird or something. But otherwise, they don't see it. And so I think they think that I am playing things up when I'm not. I mean, it's rough, I tell you what. Anxiety. There are days anymore that I just feel like I want to crawl out of my skin. I just feel so antsy and so uptight. Bone fractures and osteoporosis, osteopenia. Osteopenia is where the bones are thinning, but it hasn't thinned enough to be considered osteoporosis. With me, I was diagnosed with osteopenia a few years back, but they never really put two and two together. They never tested. I'd never had my PTH levels tested until in March of this year, 2022. But then when they did the bone scan in August, they did a bone density test. And they said that now they're classifying it. It's gotten a little worse than it was a few years ago. It's not like hardcore osteoporosis, but because I've broken bones twice in the last few years, very simply, like rolling my foot or just running and my bone cracked, then they're saying, well, it's osteoporosis. So that's because my body is sucking calcium out of the bones and making them weak, and that is attributed to the parathyroid glands being messed up and pulling calcium out of the bones. So then there's also gastrointestinal issues, and this is where it gets a little personal, but you can have constipation really bad. And mine is so sluggish that they did what they call a SITS test, where they have you take a capsule that has like radioactive markers, little rings in them. And then 5 days later, they do an x-ray. And actually, it's supposed to be more thorough than this, but I won't go into that right now. The doctor that did it just didn't handle things right. But anyway, so when they do an x-ray 5 days later, the majority of the rings should be out of your system. Well, 5 days later, and there's 24 rings in this capsule, when they did the x-ray 5 days later, I think there were 23 rings still in there. So my bowels are not working like they should, and that is because the smooth muscles just get weak and relaxed because of the whole thing with the parathyroid. Stomach aches, acid reflux, ulcers, kidney stones is a big one because of the calcium. Fortunately, I have not had kidney stones yet, knock on wood. I have had the other stuff, and the nausea. The nausea is horrible. Excessive nighttime urination. I didn't know that, I knew for months that I get up several times during the night, and there are times that I get up and use the restroom and I think it's never going to end. And it's like, holy shit, where is my body holding all of this? I didn't know my bladder was that big. And that, I guess, is part of it. High blood pressure and heart palpitations. I found out 15 years ago that I had high blood pressure, and it was shortly after my mom passed away. And I have heart palpitations where the heart just kind of gets a little out of rhythm for a couple of beats. Well, the medication that I'm on for the high blood pressure also helps regulate that. So I'm wondering if when I finally can get the surgery, if that will get better and I won't have to take medication anymore. That would be nice. Bone pain. I get in my right hand, my fingers, the middle two fingers and up the middle of my hand, the bone pain sometimes is just horrendous. It hurts so bad. I just want somebody to chop my hand off. Itchy skin. I have always had really dry, itchy skin, but it's gotten really bad, and I've developed eczema on my hands and have to do injections for that. Yeah, in a nutshell, that's a lot to deal with, and with not getting the sleep, it affects my memory and my focus and my energy and everything even more. So the whole purpose of me doing this blog is to kind of follow a journey of healing and trying to deal with some of my issues. I can't get in for a surgery until November, which is approximately 6 weeks away at least, which kind of stinks, but it is what it is. You gotta do what you gotta do. In the meantime, I want to try to focus on finding ways to get out of my own head, and I've decided to start working on some art projects that I have been really intrigued by, and so I'm going to share some of that with you guys, and maybe you'll try some of them and maybe it'll help you. Who knows? And I'm also going to discuss the things that are going on with me and my path on healing, hopefully getting there soon. Any tips I have or anything that I come across that might help, that if any of you are suffering from this stuff, it might help you. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell. So hopefully you'll keep coming back, and hopefully I will have things to share that you find useful or maybe amusing. You can laugh at me. I don't care. I laugh at myself all the time. Anyway, thanks for stopping by, and click on subscribe if you want, and keep following me. Thanks. Have a great day.